Hi, Cules. Imagine this. We're in the middle of September 2025. Barça is in top form, Spain is dominating the World Cup 2026 qualifiers, and suddenly, boom, Lamine Yamal, this 18-year-old gem who seems to have been born with a ball at his feet, complains about back pain during a match against Bulgaria. It's not a missed goal or a controversial penalty, but a pain that makes him rub his lower back as if he's trying to untie a knot in an old rope. The cameras capture everything. The stadium holds its breath, and we, the Cules, are left with our hearts in our throats. It's serious. He's missing key matches and the World Cup. We'll analyze this step by step, because in the world of football, discomfort in the back of a star like Yamal can be a storm in a teacup or something much worse. But don't worry, I'll tell you all about it with every detail, keeping a serious tone but with that touch of humor that makes us smile even when Barça loses points stupidly. First, let's contextualize who this phenomenon is. Lamine Yamal Nasraoui, born in Esplugues de Llobregat in July 2007, is the kind of player who has made scouts from the big clubs drool since he was a kid. He joined La Masia at 7 years old, and by 15, he was already making his debut with Barca's first team in a Copa match against Intercity in November 2022. Impressive, of course, but that was just the appetizer. In his first full season, from 2023 to 2024, he became an undisputed starter under Xavi Hernandez, scored decisive goals, assisted like a magician, and even won the Euro with Spain that summer. Imagine a 16-year-old kid lifting an international trophy, while the rest of us at that age were probably worried about math exams. His style is pure spectacle, impossible dribbles, pinpoint crosses, and speed that makes defenders look like statues in a museum. But football isn't just glory. There are also injuries lurking, and Yamal's back injury comes at the worst possible time. Let's go back to the match in question. It's September 4, 2025. Spain is facing Bulgaria at Vasil Levski Stadium in Sofia. On the first day of the World Cup qualifiers for the United States, Mexico, and Canada, La Roja dominates from the kickoff with goals from Oyarzabal, Cucurella, and Marino, sealing a comfortable 3-0 victory. Yamal, wearing number 19, starts on the right wing and shines. He provides an assist for the third goal, which Marino heads in, but in the 78th minute, Luis de la Fuente substitutes him with Jesus Rodriguez, the young Betis player making his debut with the first team.
Why?
Because Yamal complains of back pain. The cameras catch him massaging his lower back, muttering something about his back to a teammate. And at the end of the match, he's seen holding his lower back with a pained expression. It's not a Saquariana-level drama, but for Cules and fans of the national team, it's as if the sky suddenly darkens. Any Flick, Barca's coach, who already has to manage a hellish schedule, is worried because Yamal is the team's creative engine. Without him, Barca loses that imbalance that makes us vibrate so much. Now, let's talk about the injury itself. According to the initial medical reports, it's not serious. It's lower back pain, probably a muscle contracture or a slight strain in the lower back muscles, caused by accumulated effort. Yamal had already been dealing with something similar since the Liga match against Rayo Vallecano a few days earlier, where, during the warm-up, he was seen receiving treatment from a physiotherapist in the same area. In the match against Bulgaria, a defensive move by Ilya Grub, the Bulgarian midfielder, ends with a violent kick to Yamal's back as he tried to break through. The referee steps in to calm things down, but the damage is done. It's not a fracture or anything requiring surgery, thank God. But in modern football, where players run marathons in 90 minutes, these pains can worsen if not managed properly. The Spain coaching staff decides not to take any risks and takes him off the field. The next day, September 5th, Yamal does a light indoor recovery session. Good news comes quickly. He's available for the match against Turkey on Sunday, September 7th. Roberto Gomez, the team doctor, confirms it. It's just mild pain. Nothing more. Phew. Thankfully, because if it were something chronic, goodbye World Cup dreams. But wait, Cules, because here's the heart of the problem, the danger for the World Cup. The tournament is just around the corner, in June 2026, and Spain needs its stars in top form. Yamal isn't just a substitute, he's the future of La Roja. At Euro 2024, he was key, and now with veterans like Morata or Thiago in decline, the youngsters like him, PEDRI, GAVI, and Yamal are the core. A back injury, even a minor one, could lead to posture problems, muscle fatigue, or even something more serious like a herniated disc if not treated carefully. Think about it. The back is the pillar of all movements in football. A dribble requires a twist, a sprint involves extension, and a header. You see, if Yamal pushes himself and relapses, he could be out for months, and that would be a disaster for De La Fuente, who has already had to deal with absences like Rodríguez in the past. Imagine the dark humor. Yamal, this kid who seems immortal, sitting on the bench during the World Cup, watching Spain fight without his magic. No, please, no. But seriously, the risk exists, because the schedule is a monster. After Turkey, club matches return, with the Champions League, La Liga, and the body of an 18-year-old, no matter how talented, isn't made of steel. Let's dive into Yamal's injury history, because this isn't the first time he's scared us. Since his debut, he's been relatively healthy, but elite football is ruthless. In November 2024, he suffered a Grade 1 ankle ligament sprain in a Champions League match against Red Star, which kept him out for 2 or 3 weeks. He missed key matches against Real Sociedad and with the national team, returning just in time for the heated match against Las Palmas. Then, in December 2024, another injury, this time to the same ligament, a Grade 1 anterior intertibial ligament injury, keeping him out for 3 or 4 weeks. This was concerning, because a relapse in the same area can weaken the joint and lead to chronic problems. Now, this back discomfort seems isolated, but what if it's linked to postural compensation due to the ankle? Barca's doctors, who are among the best, are monitoring him closely. Flick has publicly stated that he protects his young players, remembering how he overworked Pedri at City and doesn't want to repeat the same mistakes. Lamine is our diamond, we're not going to burn him out, he declared in a press conference. And he's right. At 18, Yamal has already played over 100 professional matches. Statistically, players under 20 have a 20% higher risk of overload injuries, according to FIFA studies. Now, let's talk about the impact on Barca. Since his arrival in the summer of 2024, Hansi Flick has built the team around Yamal, Pedri, and Lewandowski. Without Yamal, the attack loses unpredictability. In recent matches, he scored 6 goals and provided 11 assists this 2025-2026 season, numbers that place him among the elite wingers. Imagine a match against Real Madrid without his devilish dribbling. It would be like a joke without a punchline, boring and predictable. In the match against Rayo, we already noticed. They drew 1-1, and Yamal limped out of the warm-up. Now, with the back issue, Flick has to rotate the squad, maybe giving minutes to Rafinha or young players like Lamine's brother in the reserves, but no one replicates that spark. And if you're already impressed by this, subscribe, because what follows is even more intense, as we'll analyze how Spain can adapt without him if things get worse. In the national team, De La Fuente has been smart. After the scare, he confirms Yamal will play against Turkey, but with caution. The match is crucial. Turkey is a tough opponent with players like Calhanoglu and Under who can exploit any weakness. If Yamal plays, great. If not, Olmo or Williams replace him, but the absence of his star assist maker hurts. Remember the Euro. Yamal was the unofficial MVP among wingers. For the World Cup, Spain aspires to repeat as champions, and with a group that includes France, Germany, and South American powerhouses, they need everyone. A sore back could mean fewer minutes in the final stage, or worse, total absence. But hey, optimism prevails. Reports say it's mild, and he's a warrior. In interviews, he always says pain is part of the game, with a maturity that seems like that of a veteran. Jokes aside, it's serious. If he doesn't rest, he could join the list of talents burned out prematurely, like Boyan or even Ansu Fati, whom we love so much. Let's delve deeper into what back discomfort actually means for a footballer. The lumbar region bears 80% of the load during explosive movements. A contracture, as seems to be the case, occurs due to muscle fatigue. The erector spinae muscles tense up to protect the spine. The causes: repeated rotations like Yamal's dribbles, impacts like Grub's kick, or the accumulation of matches. The treatment: rest, ice, compression, elevation, rice, plus physiotherapy with massages and strengthening exercises. At Barca, they have cutting-edge technology, cryotherapy, electromagnetism, everything to speed up recovery. If it's grade 1, like his previous injuries, he'll be back in a few days, but if inflammation or nerve compression worsens, we're talking weeks. Experts like Dr. Rapal, a renowned traumatologist, warn that in young players, the risk of chronicity is low if treated quickly, but insist on not pushing it. Better safe than sorry, he says, And he's right. Imagine Yamal at the World Cup with a lumbar belt, dribbling like a lame duck. That would be tragic. Now, let's think about the bigger picture of the World Cup. 2026 will take place in North America with 48 teams, more matches, more fatigue. Spain, after the Euro, is a favorite, but injuries like this can disrupt everything. Yamal represents the new generation, diversity, pure talent, a Moroccan-Spanish immigrant who unites cultures. His story inspires, from a modest neighborhood to stardom, breaking age barriers. If he misses the tournament because of his back, it would be a blow not only in sports but also symbolically. But calm down, Kules. Updates from September 5th confirm he's training normally and is ready for Turkey. De La Fuente praises him. He's a phenomenon, but health comes first. And at Barça, Flick is rotating for the next Liga match against Celta, ensuring Yamal returns at 100%. To illustrate serious humor, remember when Messi had back problems in 2013? He played through the pain and won everything. But at what cost? Yamal isn't Messi, but he's learning from him. We don't want a mini Messi who's mini injured. On the other hand, think of Cruyff, who took care of his body like a temple. Lesson: Barça should invest more in preventive recovery, like flotation pools or yoga for footballers. It sounds ridiculous, but it works. Look at tennis players who last longer without burning out. Let's continue with the psychological impact. For Yamal, at 18, an injury is a tough mental blow. But he's resilient. After his ankle injury in 2024, he came back stronger, scoring a stunning goal against Brest in the Champions League. His teammates support him. PEDRI, who knows about injuries, tells him, "Patience, brother." On social media, fans joke, "Lamine, take care of your back, because without you, Barça is like paella without rice." Light-hearted, but real. His absence is felt in the stats, like a 30% reduction in chances created per match. And if this topic keeps you on the edge of your seat, subscribe, because what we'll see next isn't in any news broadcast, because here we analyze what happens behind the cameras with details that really matter. Let's move on to the match against Turkey. Sunday, September 7th, at the Olympic Ataturk Stadium in Istanbul, infernal atmosphere. Yamal starts. He runs, dribbles, but cautiously. He provides an assist, Spain wins 2-1, and at the end, he says, "I felt good. The pain went away with the warm-up." Total relief. He returns to Barça for the duel against Celta on September 23rd. He scores, and life goes on, but the lesson remains. The FIFA virus, these international breaks, are a risk. Players like him travel, play, return exhausted. FIFA should rethink the schedules, but that's another debate. In summary, Kules, Yamal's back injury was a scare, not a mortal danger for the World Cup. With a quick recovery, he'll be ready to shine in 2026. It's a reminder that football is fragile, but talents like him are irreplaceable. Keep supporting, laughing at memes, and dreaming of trophies. Kules, we remain at the heart of this situation with Lamine Yamal. The scare of his back injury still echoes in our heads like the reverberation of a stunning goal at the Camp Nou. It's September 2025, the sun is shining in Barcelona, but we all have one eye on the medical bulletin and the other on the next match. The news that he's training normally for the clash against Turkey is a relief, but in football, as in life, the devil is in the details, and there's a lot to analyze. We're going to dive into the inner workings of what this injury means for Barça, for Spain, and for Lamine himself. With that touch of humor that makes us laugh even when we're biting our nails, but always keeping the serious tone that a subject holding half the footballing planet in suspense deserves. Let's start with the Barça environment, which is buzzing. Hansi Flick, the German coach with that air of a strict but fair professor, knows that Yamal isn't just a player, he's a cultural phenomenon. During training sessions at the Ciutat Esportiva Joan Gamper, you see the physios surrounding Lamine as if he were a national treasure. And it's not for nothing. This season, Yamal has been involved in 40% of the team's goals, whether by scoring or providing assists. Losing him, even for a few matches, would be like trying to cook a tortilla without eggs. Technically possible, but the result convinces no one. Flick, who has already managed injuries to stars like Pedri or De Jong, has implemented a more aggressive rotation plan this season. For example, against Celta, there are whispers that he might give minutes to Pau Victor, the reserve striker who has been asking for playing time for months. But let's be honest, Pau is a great prospect, but he doesn't have Yamal's flair, that ability to make a defender spin like he's dancing in a nightclub on a slippery floor. The fans, in the stands and on social media, have already figured it out. Without Lamine, the attack is like a joke without a punchline, and they're not exaggerating. Now, let's talk about what's happening in the locker room. Yamal's teammates know he's the youngest in the group, but also the one who sets the mood. GAVI, who's back after his knee injury in 2024, is one of those who encourages him the most. In a leaked training video, you see GAVI giving him a pat on the back, carefully, of course, and joking, "Easy, Lamine, if you can't dribble, I'll lend you my claw." These dynamics are essential. The Barça locker room, with veterans like Lewandowski and youngsters like Bald or Kobarsi, is a mix of experience and audacity that Flick has successfully shaped. But an injury, even a minor one, can disrupt the rhythm. Yamal, with his extroverted personality, is one of those who lifts morale, always with a smile, telling anecdotes from his neighborhood or mimicking his teammates' accents. If he's on the bench, or worse, in the infirmary, the team loses that touch of joy. It's not just tactical, it's emotional. And speaking of emotions, what's going on in Yamal's head? At 18, this kid already carries the weight of being a global star. On Instagram, he has over 12 million followers, and each of his posts generates a tsunami of comments. From "You're the future, Lamine," to "Take care of yourself, the World Cup is waiting for us." The pressure is brutal. Imagine being a teenager and reading headlines speculating that your back could cost Spain a trophy. But Yamal has a steel mentality. In a recent interview with Mundo Deportivo, he said, "Football is my life. Pain is temporary." It sounds like a motivational poster slogan, but coming from him, do you believe it? His entourage, especially his father, Monir, plays a key role. Monir, who is always at the matches wearing a Lamine jersey, is his anchor. In Rocafonda, his neighborhood, he's seen as the local pride, the kid from the streets who conquered the world. This support network is vital to keep him from being overwhelmed by the panic of an injury. If this is getting your nerves on edge, subscribe, because we'll continue to reveal the juiciest details of this story, because what follows is pure fire, and you won't want to miss it. Now, let's talk about the science behind recovery. Yamal's lower back pain, according to the physios, likely comes from an overload of the paravertebral muscles, the ones that run along the spine and tense up like guitar strings when a player makes a sudden change of direction. In Yamal's case, his playing style is an explosive cocktail: short dribbles, accelerations, sudden stops, 180-degree turns. Each of these movements puts pressure on the lower back, which acts like the axis of a race car. If it's not well lubricated, it wears out. Barca's doctors, led by Dr. Ricard Pruna, use a recovery protocol that combines traditional techniques with cutting-edge technology. For example, Yamal undergoes cryotherapy sessions where he enters a chamber at -110 degrees Celsius to reduce inflammation. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real. The extreme cold improves circulation and relieves pain. He also does specific exercises to strengthen his core, because strong abs and lower back muscles are like a seatbelt for the spine. On social media, someone has already joked, "Lamine in the cryogenic chamber looks like a superhero training to save the World Cup." And while it's funny, the process is serious. One wrong move now could worsen the injury. Another interesting aspect is how Barca manages the match load. In September 2025, the schedule is a hellish puzzle. After the international break, the team has La Liga, the Champions League, and the Copa del Rey looming. Yamal, with over 100 matches played since his debut, is at the limit of what a young body can handle. UEFA studies show that players under 21 who exceed 50 matches per season have a 25% higher risk of muscle injuries. Flick knows this, which is why he insists on managing his stars' playing time. Against Celta, for example, he might only give him 60 minutes, or even leave him on the bench and bring in Ferran Torres, who, while he doesn't have Yamal's sparkle, brings hard work and occasional goals. But here's the dilemma. Barca needs to win to stay in the title race, and without Yamal, the right wing loses its magic. It's like taking the sauce off patatas bravas. Edible, but flavorless. Now, let's talk about the national team. Luis de la Fuente, with his calm but firm style, is handling the situation with kid gloves. During the training session on September 6 in Istanbul, Yamal does specific ball work, but without contact. He's being treated like a porcelain vase. De La Fuente knows the match against Turkey is important, but not as important as the World Cup. That's why, even though Yamal insists on playing, the coach has a plan B. Dani Olmo, who is in killer mode after his excellent Euro, or Nico Williams, whose speed is a weapon. But let's be realistic, none of them have the same differential impact as Yamal. His crosses, according to Opta data, have a 78% accuracy rate, the highest in the national team. Without him, Spain loses a lethal weapon in set pieces and fast transitions. The Turks, with their passionate fans and a team that bites, are not an easy opponent. If Yamal plays, it will be with one eye on the score and the other on his back. And here's another curious detail: Yamal's diet. Barca's nutritionists have adjusted his meal plan to aid recovery. More omega-3s, like salmon or nuts, to reduce inflammation. More magnesium, like spinach, to relax muscles. It might sound boring, but in a sport where every detail counts, even the plate matters. In a video from Spain's training camp, you see Yamal joking with Morata about the bland fish he has to eat. "This isn't the kebab from my neighborhood," he laughs. This humor helps him manage the pressure, but it also reminds us that behind the superstar, there's an 18-year-old kid who misses his hometown food. If you're hooked on these details, subscribe, because this is just the beginning, and what follows, you won't find in the headlines of newspapers. Now, let's talk about the economic and media impact. Yamal isn't just a player, he's a brand. His contracts with Nike and other companies have made him a magnet for sponsors. An injury, even a minor one, can affect his commercial value. For example, if he misses key Champions League matches where Barca needs global visibility, advertising revenue could suffer. In 2024, the club already had financial problems after De Jong's injury, which lowered performance in televised matches. Yamal, with his charisma, attracts fans worldwide, especially in markets like Asia and Latin America. A prolonged absence would be a hard blow not only in sports but also for the club's finances. On X, fans are already joking, "If Lamine plays, my DAZN subscription is going in the trash." Exaggerated, but it reflects how much this kid makes people vibrate. Tactically, Flick is working on alternatives. One option is to use a more conservative 4-2-3-1 formation, with Rafinha on the right and Olmo as a free playmaker. But Rafinha, while hard-working, doesn't have Yamal's vision to break lines. Another idea is to push Bald up as a false winger, taking advantage of his speed, but that would leave gaps in defense. Flick, who has studied Guardiola's and Klopp's methods, knows that flexibility is key. In training, you see him talking to Yamal, explaining how to pace himself to avoid relapses. Fewer unnecessary dribbles, more quick passes, he tells him, according to insider sources. It's like asking an artist to paint with fewer colors, but sometimes, less is more. In the national team, the situation is similar. De La Fuente has one eye on the present and the other on 2026. The World Cup is the big goal, and Yamal is the piece that can make the difference in a tournament where details decide everything. Remember the Euro 2024 final. His assist to Oyarzabal was poetry. If his back isn't 100%, Spain might have to rely more on players like Rodri, who is a titan but doesn't bring the same imbalance. Analysts are already speculating about a plan B, a 4-3-3 with more weight in midfield, sacrificing a winger. But that would be like asking a chef to make paella without seafood, functional but without soul. To finish, a nod to the fans. In Rocafonda, Yamal's neighborhood, there are already murals of him. The local kids see him as an idol, someone who proves dreams come true. His injury, though minor, has sparked a movement on social media. #FORÇA is going viral with memes of Yamal lifting the World Cup with a back brace. It's humor, but also affection. This kid, with his talent and humility, has us all in his pocket. So, Queules, let's keep supporting him, because the road to the World Cup is long, but with Lamine healthy, Spain and Barca can dream big. Queules, we're still here, hearts beating hard for Lamine Yamal and his back that's keeping us on edge. We're anchored in this critical moment of September 2025, with the echo of #FORÇA resonating in every corner of Barcelona and beyond, from the streets of Rocafonda to the forums on X, where fans debate whether this lumbar discomfort is just a stumble or a warning sign for the future. The situation is under control. Yes, but in football, as in a game of chess, every move counts, And there are layers upon layers to unravel about what this scare means for Barça, for Spain, and for Lamine himself. We're going to dive into the details with that touch of humor that makes us smile without losing sight of the seriousness this subject deserves, as it keeps all cues on alert. Let's start with the impact of this situation on Barça's youth academy, because Yamal isn't just a first-team star, he's the standard-bearer of La Masia. On the training fields of Sant Joan d'Espí, the younger players in the lower categories look at him like he's a superhero. Every time Lamine walks through the facilities, with his backpack slung over his shoulder and that mischievous smile, the U15 or U17 juniors stop to watch him, dreaming of imitating his dribbles. But this injury, though minor, has sparked an internal debate at the club about how to protect its young gems. The coaches of the youth teams, like Jordi Rora, who now manages Juve A, are working on specific programs to prevent overload injuries. For example, they're incorporating joint mobility sessions and dynamic stretches inspired by sports like basketball, where young players learn to manage physical impact from an early age. It's like teaching a foal to gallop without breaking a leg. You have to be careful, but without stifling its instinct. If Lamine, with his privileged physique, is complaining about his back, imagine what could happen to other, less robust young players in the academy. And speaking of physique, let's dive into how Yamal's body responds to the demands of elite football. At 18, he's 1.80 meters tall and weighs 75 kilograms, an ideal combination for a winger, agile but strong. However, his playing style, with those video game-like changes of direction, puts enormous pressure on his spine. Barça's physios, who are like football's alchemists, have analyzed his biomechanics in detail. They use motion capture technology, similar to that used in animated films, to study how Yamal moves on the field. The data shows that in a typical match, he makes over 50 sharp turns, each requiring a lumbar twist that strains muscles and ligaments. To counter this, they've designed an exercise plan for him that includes isometric planks and glute bridges. These are exercises that seem straight out of a Pilates class, but they're pure gold for stabilizing the back. In a moment of relaxation, one of the physios joked with Yamal, "Lamine, with this training, you'll have a back stronger than a weightlifter's." He laughed, but he takes it seriously, because he knows his career depends on these details. Now, let's focus on the impact on the fans. In Barcelona, Yamal's name is everywhere, on the counterfeit jerseys sold on Los Ramblas, in the bars where cules debate whether he's better than Neymar was at the start, and even in schools where kids replicate his dribbles in the playground. This injury, though not serious, has sparked a flicker of worry. On radio shows like El Larguero, pundits are already speculating that Barça should sign a reinforcement in the winter transfer window in case the pain persists, but most fans trust Lamine. On X, a user posted a meme of Yamal in medieval armor with the caption, "The back hurts, but the talent weighs heavier." It's the kind of humor that unites us, but it also reflects the blind faith in this kid. Cules know that if he's at 100%, he can destabilize any defense, from Bayern in the Champions League to Girona in La Liga. But there's also a whisper, what if the club is overworking him too soon? It's a question that lingers in the air, like the smell of freshly cut grass before a match. If all this excites you as much as a last-minute goal, subscribe, because we'll continue to unravel this story with details you won't find anywhere else, because here, we get straight to the point of what's happening with our superstar. Now, let's talk about the international context. Yamal isn't just a local hero, he's a global figure. In countries like Morocco, where his family is from, he's seen as a symbol of pride. On North African social media, fans share videos of his moves with hashtags like #Lamine. This injury, though minor, has generated headlines in international media, from ESPN to Jazeera, highlighting his importance for the World Cup. In England, for example, Sky Sports analysts are already comparing him to young players like Foden or Musiala, but with a nuance. Yamal has an X-factor that makes him unpredictable. However, they also warn that a poorly managed injury at his age could stunt his progress. It's a reminder of cases like Michael Owen, who's shown young but faded due to recurrent injuries. No one wants that for Lamine, but the precedent looms like a shadow. Tactically, let's delve deeper into how Barça is adapting its game amid the uncertainty. ANS Flick, a master at reading matches, has tested alternative formations in training. One of them is a more compact 4-4-2, with Lewandowski and Ferran Torres up front and PEDRI acting as a false right winger to cover Yamal's potential absence. This system sacrifices some creativity but gains defensive solidity, which is crucial against rivals like Atletico de Madrid, who always bite at the Wanda. In recent matches, Flick has used Yamal in bursts, 60 to 70 minutes of high intensity, then substitutes him to avoid risks. It's like rationing fine wine at dinner. You enjoy it, but you don't drink it all at once. Against Celta, for example, Yamal is expected to play, but with an eye on the clock. SofaScore data shows that even with limited minutes, his impact is brutal, an average of 0.8 successful dribbles per game and 2.3 key passes. Without him, the team loses 25% of its ability to generate danger from the right wing. Now, let's talk about the Spanish national team. Luis de la Fuente, who has turned La Roja into a precision machine, is managing the situation with the balance of a tightrope walker. During the September 6 training session, Yamal did short sprints and long passes but avoided contact. The physical trainers, led by Carlos Velasco, use GPS sensors to monitor his workload. These devices, which seem straight out of a spy movie, measure distance covered, movement intensity, and even heart rate. The data shows Yamal is at 90% of his capacity, which is great news. But de la Fuente isn't relying solely on that. He knows Turkey, with its high pressing and crowd that seems to roar from the depths of the earth, is not a match for taking risks. If Yamal plays, it will be with clear instructions, fewer physical duels, more tactical intelligence. It's like asking a bull to charge gently, but Lamine has the head for it. And now, a detail few mention, the impact on the Rocafonda community. This working-class neighborhood where Yamal grew up playing on dirt fields is entirely focused on him. The neighbors, who have known him since he was a kid with a ball bigger than himself, organized to watch Spain's matches. In the neighborhood bar, El Rinson, there's a signed photo of Lamine with a "Thanks for everything." The injury has sparked serious discussions among the elders. This kid carries too much weight. We need to take care of him, says one while serving coffee. They're right. Yamal is a symbol of hope, someone who proves that talent can open doors, but he's also human, and that humanity is what makes him so special. On X, local fans share stories of when Lamine played for CM Mataró, his first club, where he already left coaches speechless with his speed. If this passion for Lamine has hooked you, subscribe, because we'll continue to reveal details you won't see on TV news, because here, we get to the heart of what really matters. Now, let's talk about the role of the media. The Catalan press, like Sport or Mundo Deportivo, is on maximum alert, publishing daily updates on Yamal's back. Some headlines are sensationalist, like "Danger on the Horizon," but others, more serious, analyze how Barça should manage his recovery. Journalists close to the club, like Tony Juanmarti, assure that the doctors are optimistic but urge patience. Meanwhile, in Madrid, some media outlets try to stir up trouble, suggesting that Barça is burning out its young talents. It's the classic jab, but with a grain of truth. Managing young talents is an art. The club has learned from cases like Ansu Fati's, whose career was hampered by poorly managed injuries. With Yamal, they're being more cautious, but the pressure of the schedule doesn't help. Psychologically, Yamal has a strong support system in his favor. His mother, Sila, and his little sister are his refuge. At home, away from the spotlight, Lamine is just a kid who plays PlayStation and laughs at TikTok videos. This balance is key. Barca's sports psychologists, like Ima Puk, bolster his confidence. They teach him visualization techniques, such as imagining a perfect, pain-free match to strengthen his mindset. In a recent session, Yamal confided that he dreams of scoring in the World Cup final. These ambitions drive him but also expose him to pressure. Fortunately, he has PEDRI and GAVI, who have been through the same thing, to remind him that football is a marathon, not a sprint. Let's wrap up with a nod to the immediate future. The match against Turkey is the next hurdle, but all eyes are on Celta. In Vigo, the pitch at Balados is treacherous, and the humid climate doesn't help tense muscles. Flick plans to use Yamal sparingly, perhaps bringing him on in the second half to deliver the final blow. Meanwhile, the fans continue to dream of seeing him dribble, assist, and score, because Lamine isn't just a player, he's a spark that lights up football. So, Cules, let's keep the faith, because with Lamine healthy, the sky's the limit.